Welcome to the week one go-to session. This is the first of 4 such sessions we're going to be having this month. Welcome to those in attendance. Welcome to those of you who are watching the recording of this lecture. Welcome to week one. We're mostly going to focus this week on what the week one activities, like explaining what you're going to do. Now, I think just about everybody in this class has taken this class once before. Am I correct about that, people? And for whatever reason, there was an illness, there were personal issues, you couldn't devote time necessary to this class. For whatever reason, you're taking it again. I do thank you for watching this lecture, because I promise you, if you watch my lectures, you will do fine in this class. I love my colleagues, I really do. But some of them go for an hour and a half, an hour and 40 minutes. I try to keep my lectures to no more than an hour, because after an hour, I lose people. So let's get, I've got a finicky laptop, so I have no idea why it just started moving things. Okay, so welcome to week one. First, though, before we get into what we're doing this month, I'm just going to go over some really basic stuff, and I'm going to do things quickly because, again, you've taken this class before. What I want to do is really jump ahead into the meat of what we're doing, because, again, there could have been a lot of reasons why English didn't work the first time, okay? But for those of you who struggled, it's my goal to get you past this month, okay? And I promise I will make this class as painless and as easy and as straightforward as possible. So welcome to week one. You know where this stuff is, okay? If you don't know, drop me a line. But most of this stuff is found in the About tab. If you look on, I think for students it's on the left side. If you just click on About, you will find most of this. The office hours are under a different activity, the welcome activity, where I introduce myself. There's a little video, and below that are my office hours. Okay. The Writing Center has a new name. It's now called Copilot, and it's a little bit frustrating to find. But if anybody who needs to make a Writing Center appointment, just pass me a message, okay? The easiest way to send me a message is through the FSO platform. I should check email every day, but I can be kind of a little bit lazy because so few students send me emails that when I get one, it's surprising. The quickest way to get me a response is just to send me a direct message through the FSO platform. You've probably seen this before, so I'm not going to say too much about it. I don't think I have to explain the importance of writing. Even people swear that they hate English class and don't understand why they're taking it. And I'm here to study digital cinematography. I'm not here to be an English major. I get it, okay? But I always say, show me an example of a successful person who cannot write or speak well. I mean, try it. I mean, even whatever names you can throw at me, they're usually much smarter than you think so. Like all these talented entertainers, singers, actors, obviously business people. Yeah, they can write and they can communicate well. So yeah, I don't really have to convince people that being able to write well is important. I think people know that. What happens is that people have had bad past experiences. And that has colored their sort of attitude towards English class. You know, they've had previous instructors beat up on them, or they've been made to feel like they're terrible at writing, and they carry that forward. Okay, but deep down inside, they do understand that being able to write well is going to be helpful in your entire life. Like even when it comes to just writing a resume or sending a cover letter, you will get sent to like the slush pile if your letter is poorly written or if it has mistakes galore. So anyway, we only have you for 4 weeks though, so it is a sprint more than a marathon. And these 4 weeks go fast. They go fast for instructors as well as students. Before we start talking about this week's main activity, which again, most of you already know about, let me just back up real quickly and introduce a couple things. First of all, this week, okay, so here's week one, right? Here's a list of activities. Most of this is just like setup stuff under the Getting Started tab. So obviously you've done the lecture registration because you're here. You also have to get signed up over at McGraw Hill because there's some interactive modules called Achieve modules, which I'm going to show in just a second. And yeah, please get signed up and Turnitin. I know it's a pain to go to all these different websites, but it's easier for me when everybody has their stuff submitted to one place, like Turnitin. Plus, I love Turnitin's tools. It makes it easier for me to grade. So yeah, all the major activities, basically the stuff that's due every Sunday night, is going to be handed into Turnitin.com. Okay, but this week you have basically 3 graded activities. A journal response, which is easy peasy. Okay, let me just open up real quickly. You should read all this on your own, but I'll just get to the part where you have to answer. It's, where is it? Did I go on the right thing? No, I went into the wrong activity. Here we go. So read through this all your own, but you have to go here. Okay, you have 3 questions to consider, and you just have to answer them. Okay, so consider courses you take before. What challenges did you face? What strengths do you already have that you can use to overcome these challenges? And then if you take English Comp before, will you be rebuilding work from a previous class or starting fresh? My recommendation, and you don't have to follow it, of course, is to start fresh. This way you don't run into any problems with plagiarism. We do ask that if you reuse an old ad that's used from a past class, that when you submit work, it has to be 30% new material. And Turnitin shows me, right? If I see something that's submitted that shows 100% similarity, that means that you're uploading the exact same thing that you handed in the past. So choosing one of my approved ads, I know I've gotten a little bit ahead of myself. I haven't yet mentioned what we're doing this month. But again, because all of you are taking this for the second, maybe more than the second time, you know that the main assignment this month is to write a short ad analysis essay. Okay, so if you've chosen a previous ad from a previous instructor, that's fine, but you have to do 30% new material on every assignment that you hand in. Okay, so and it's not just that choosing one of my approved ads will help you avoid the problem of plagiarism. Also, again, there could be various reasons why you're taking the course again. I have students who have retaken this class, and I don't. It shocks me that they're retaking again, but then I find out that they had a personal emergency, right? They had a family emergency. They had something going on that just didn't allow them to devote time to this class like they should. But sometimes something didn't work the first time around. And instead of repeating those errors, starting fresh can help you avoid them. Okay, so it's up to you. I do ask, though, if you are going to use an ad from a past class, please give me some help. Like, you know, send me the URL, send me a link to the ad, or give very, very specific wording. Like, here's the title of the ad, here's the brand, here's the title of the ad, and I can find it very easily, either through Google or through YouTube. There's a kind of final reason why I encourage people, if they can, to choose one of my approved ads. I've chosen ads, and let me go ahead and show the list of ads. I'm getting a bit ahead of myself because I actually wanted to talk about this a bit later. But okay, that's not what I wanted. Okay, so week 1, under this first major activity, which is worth 15% of your grade, it is a brainstorming worksheet. You will see the list of my approved ads. Okay, so you have, what is this, 3, 6, 8 ads, I think, to choose from. 5 are television commercials, 3 are print ads. I can tell you that commercials tend to be easier than print ads. Print ads are entirely visual. So if I click on this guy here for Altoids, and it's taking some time to come up. Hopefully it will come up any second now. Resolving hose. Okay, here, let me go to another one. How about this one? Okay, so this one's come up. So here's an example of a print ad. Print ads are obviously entirely visual. So, and here's the Altoids one. So on some level, you have to be comfortable analyzing and discussing visual elements. Some people do this kind of intuitively. Some people are very, very comfortable discussing visual elements. But commercials, of course, have more things going on. They have movement, like people moving around. They have dialogue. They have music, often sound, often stories, or maybe even little plots. There are a lot more things to focus on in a television commercial than a print ad. So one of my recommendations is to hold off choosing an ad until the end of this lecture. That includes if you've already decided in your mind, well, I'm going to use a past ad. Okay. And the reason why I kind of encourage people to choose an ad from my approved list is because I've chosen them because I think all these ads have lots of things going on in them. Okay, that's why I've chosen them. I haven't chosen any of these ads because I think they're cool. Some of them actually I'm not that crazy about. But I chose them because there are several things going on. Also, we're going to practice. We're going to look at 3 ads during this first session, and we're going to brainstorm together the sorts of things we need to keep an eye out for in an ad. And once the lecture is over, then choose an ad, okay? Based not on whether you like Call of Duty or not. I'm guessing there are a lot of people who like Call of Duty. Lots of people like to eat at McDonald's. Lots of people who love Apple's products. But don't choose an ad based on how much you love the company or the product. Choose an ad based on how much you can see going on. I will say that I keep meaning to get rid of Chico the Stork every month, but I always forget to. So I try to scare people off during this lecture. This is the hardest ad of the bunch. I think I kind of maybe subconsciously keep it up because I do get maybe one student per month who takes a challenge and says, okay, David's saying stay away from it. I'm going to choose it. I can do a good job with it. Because A, it's a print ad, right? So you have to be comfortable discussing visual elements. And two, this is a pretty minimalist ad, okay? So it can be sometimes difficult for students to find things to talk about in this ad. And yet occasionally I see a student choose it, and then I have to be the mean instructor and say, why in the world did you choose this ad? Didn't you watch the first lecture? Like, it's proof that they didn't watch the lecture. Because I have to tell them, this is the ad I told everybody to stay away from. Don't go near this ad unless you're really, really comfortable analyzing things and want to show off. So yeah, it's up there, but be careful, okay? So real quickly, I want to show McGraw Hill, and then I want to spend the rest of the time talking about the first assignment and ad analysis. Okay, so here's McGraw Hill. How do I want to do this? Okay, I think I have to go into it first. Oh, by the way, because I've had some people already having problems. Oh, I hate this. Can I just say, the new MacBooks have terrible keyboards. They're so flat and shallow that they don't register your fingertips at all, and they do weird things. This is why I'm being so clumsy with like moving around. I hate these new keyboards. Really, I'm this close to smashing this lap. If it weren't school property, okay, no more talk. What was I talking about? The McGraw Hill Achieve modules, right? Okay, so registration. Everybody here registered already for McGraw Hill? Okay, so you have a little video here that shows you how to register. The thing is, don't be logged in, okay? So here, I'm going to log out of McGraw Hill real quickly. Don't be logged in. And, it's now split between two windows. Okay, so when you're not logged in and you click down this link, it should take you to a page that looks like this, where you will see my name and July. Why is it saying July? Oh no. Is this pointing? Oh, it's just because I'm using. Okay, it's all good. This is last month's class. Okay, but it's the same thing. Your link says August. When you click on it, you will see my name. You will see August 2019. That tells you you're in the right place. So yeah, don't worry about this. It's just because I'm using last month's link. And then just follow the instructions. Enter your email. Click begin to begin, and that will ensure that you get enrolled in my section. Okay, because I'm already getting emails about how every time I log in, I keep seeing only my previous class, not your class. Try clicking on the registration link when you're not already logged in. Okay, once you are logged in, let me go back to, you know what, I'm going to get rid of this. Oh, this is such. Okay, where were we? McGraw Hill. McGraw Hill is so simple. You have 3 interactive modules to do for weeks 1, 2, and 4. I've opened everything for the entire month. So if you want a week ahead and just bang out all 3 of these modules in one weekend, you can do so. They're not terribly difficult. Actually, let me go into the student view to show how they work. And as you can see, everything's organized by folders, the readings and the Achieve modules. So if we just click on the little arrow here, we can just click one of these guys, these blue arrows, to get started. For example, on the week 1 Achieve module. And click begin. It'll take a moment to load, and then some woman will start talking. Continue. Okay. For some reason, it always sends me here to the help section, but if you go to assignment, that's where you need to be. You can choose your own study schedule based on how many times you want to work per week, but you can also just jump right in and complete it all at once if you want. I've already started this in the past, so I just have to jump back into it again, I believe. Tell this woman to be quiet. And I'm just going to answer a few questions. Always a risk, because this is where I have to show off my knowledge. And you can decide to answer 4 questions in a row or by topic, or you can just jump into the assignments, which is what I'll do. So read the sentence fragment. Okay, a fragment is an incomplete sentence. Which revisions correct the fragment? Check all that apply. Thinking about going swimming in the afternoon. So that's a fragment, right? Because if someone came up to you in the street and simply said, thinking about going swimming in the afternoon, that would sound absurd, right? It sounds incomplete. Like, okay. Thinking about going swimming in the afternoon and waiting for a ride. No, that still doesn't make it a complete sentence. Another day thinking about going swimming in the afternoon. No, that's still not a complete sentence. How about I was thinking about going swimming in the afternoon? Yeah, that sounds complete to me. Thinking about going swimming in the afternoon, I hesitated until it was too late to go. Yeah, that sounds like a complete sentence as well. So how sure am I? I'm pretty darn sure. Yay! And you'll see as soon as I click OK, the 0% meter is going to go up to 2%. Let's see. Use the drop-down box to choose the correct end punctuation for the sentence. Last night, Jimmy asked if he could spend the night. That's just a period. Because even though it seems like it's a question, it's not framed as a question. In other words, it doesn't say last night Jimmy asked, comma, quote, can I spend the night? Question mark. End quote. Right? This is what's called reported speech. We're reporting what Jimmy said. And yes, Jimmy asked if he could spend the night, but it's not framed as a question. So it requires a period, not a question mark. But let's say you're not entirely sure. So you say, think so. Submit. Correct. Okay, we're up to 4%. I'll answer one more and then we'll move on. In which sentence is the apostrophe correctly used to show possession in a noun series? Ooh, I hate these. Okay, so this one's wrong because there are no apostrophes whatsoever. Darcy and Howard's letters each arrived in the mail yesterday. Darcy's and Howard's letters. Oh man, I should have quit while I was ahead. I forget the rule on this. I think it's this one because it's Darcy's individual letter and Howard's individual letter. But I also think this might be correct because it sounds weird. Darcy's and Howard's letters. Which one should I go with, people? 2 or 3? 2, says Sean. Bernie says 2. Okay, let's go with it. I know it. Ooh. I'm blaming that on you guys. You told me to. I got to be honest, though. That's one of those rules that I wasn't sure on. I mean, yeah, after it turned out to be wrong, I'm going to say I was going to choose 3, but who knows? Okay. But anyway, the cool thing is you don't get penalized for getting one wrong. It's just going to pop up later. Okay. And it's going to see if you can remember what the correct answer is. Anyway, when you get to 100, you're done. And it's an easy 100 points because you complete it to 100%, you get a perfect 100. So there's zero excuse why you shouldn't have all 3 modules completed to 100%. Take advantage of those easy, free 15% of total points for the class. Okay, now let's get focused because I want to spend the rest of the time talking about this week. So yes, if you've taken this class before, you probably know that the main thing we're working on this month is an ad analysis essay. That's it, just one paper. And again, there might be various reasons why you're taking the class again. But let me stress something really important. This assignment is so much easier than you think. I swear. Actually, I'm sorry for bouncing around so much, but let me show you a sample. Okay, I got so many things. Where is my ad analysis folder? There it is. Okay. So you will get this paper in week 3 when we get close to the essay draft. But this is a paper that I wrote. I gave it a fake student name, Jane Student, but that's actually me. I wanted to see what it was like to complete all the assignments I assigned my students. So yeah, I sat down one day, did an ad analysis essay. And where's the folder? There it is. Okay. And we're going to take a look at this ad in a second. So actually, I'm not going to show it yet. But here's the thing. You're writing up 5 paragraphs. That's it. You have to write a general introduction paragraph. So a general conclusion paragraph. So here's the final paragraph. and then 3 paragraphs in between where you focus in each paragraph on the 3 things you see in the essay. And I'm going to repeat this like time and again throughout the month. This number 3. Okay, I want you to think in terms of threes because that's what you need to notice. You need to notice 3 things going on in the ad. But it is important that you kind of know what to look for in an ad because ad analysis is not ad description. It's not ad summary. It's not ad explication. By that I mean it's not your job to explain what the ad's message is or explain what the ad shows. I mean, sure, you might, of course, you're going to discuss a little bit what's contained in the ad, but that's not your sole purpose. Your sole purpose is to think like an advertiser, to put yourself in the shoes of, for example, an ad creator. These companies spend millions of dollars hiring ad agencies, and these ad agencies, nothing they put in an ad is accidental. Okay, and so I want you to focus on the sorts of, I like to say, moves. Okay, you need to identify 3 moves that the ad makes, and in all of my approved ads, usually they have 5, 6, 7 things going on, or at least that I can see. Maybe you can notice some additional things. But yeah, whatever your chosen ad is, you got to spot 3 things, 3 interesting and revealing moves the ad makes. That's important too. Okay, because yeah, you could point out 3 generic things like the ad has people, or the ad shows people's expressions. It's like, yeah, what ad doesn't do that? Okay, so 3 interesting and revealing moves that the ad makes. Because yes, what we're trying to look at is how do advertisers persuade their audiences. And a quick plug. Every week of this course is devoted to a different stage of the writing process. So for week 1, we're here. We're going to brainstorm ideas. You're going to choose an ad, and you're just going to look at the ad closely. And you're going to fill out an accompanying worksheet. Next week, you're going to do some research. Yes, there's research involved. And you'll begin to organize the essay. Week 3, you'll write a draft. And then finally, you'll get feedback 2 ways from both me and the instructor. You'll always get feedback from me on all your assignments, but you'll get obviously feedback on your draft. But you'll also get feedback from at least one of your peers during a week 4. Actually, I think it's at the end of week 3, peer review. And you'll revise that essay one final time. But yeah, we're only working toward one essay. Okay, we're just taking it one step at a time. Choosing an ad and brainstorming, organizing and doing a little bit of research, writing it, getting feedback, and revising it. Okay. And here's just a refresher of what we're doing week to week. Okay, we're going to look at this ad in just a second. But first of all, I think, okay, so what are the things you have to look for? You've heard me say that you should try to spot 3 things in the ad. I think these 3 things can fall under 2 general categories. One is what I like to call formal qualities. Okay, so this is technical stuff like color, sound, music, camera work, etc. For example, color. Yeah, I mean, sometimes color isn't that important of an issue in an ad, but sometimes it can be. Okay. Same thing with sound, not just the overall sound, but like music. For those of you who choose, let's say, the Call of Duty ad, it uses a very, very famous classic rock song. But I will tell you right now, it's not accidental, that choice. I mean, yes, it's chosen because it's famous and because it's upbeat and meets the kind of vibe or energy of the ad, but it's more than that. If you think about what song is chosen, think about Call of Duty Black Ops, when that game is set. Like, there's a deeper connection, and that's not accidental. Like, they didn't just do that by accident. So yeah, it means taking a close look at all these technical decisions: color, sound, music, camera work, and so on. On the other hand, there are the kind of softer elements or non-technical stuff, thematic qualities. These are issues of theme, motif, character, story, audience. For example, one of the print ads plays powerfully with the idea of nostalgia, which is a deep longing for the past. Okay, so that would fall more here, like that's a thematic thing going on. So you can choose from like technical things or non-technical things. Now I'm going to go back a slide because we're going to look at our first sample ad, and I first have to exit out of here. So give me a second. And that's our second ad. Okay, so here's an ad for Jeep. This is a print ad. Now, I have to tell you, you do not see both halves at the same time. You only see what's on the left. Both halves are being shown so you can see the visual trick, right? Which is when it's looked right side up, it looks like a giraffe's head. When looked at upside down, it looks like a standing penguin. Okay, and it has the word Jeep. It might be a little bit difficult to see, but the tagline, see whatever you want to see. Written right side up above the image, upside down below the image. Now, even if you're not entirely sure what to say about this ad, thinking about what we've already talked about, technical issues, non-technical issues, and this is a very minimalist ad. Can we think of 3 things that are going on here? 3 interesting things from a creator standpoint, from an ad agency standpoint, like the person who creates this ad. Like, what are 3 things we could talk about here? Like 3 decisions that have been clearly made. And don't worry about right or wrong at this point. Just what leaps out to you. I will wait for your responses. I can hum the Jeopardy theme. Ba-da-da-da-bop. Ba-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Bum, bum, bum. Do I have any coffee? Ba-da-da-dum, bum, 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 ba-dum. Actually, I think they do the Jeopardy song twice. Do you want me to hum it a second time? Okay, do we not see anything to possibly point? Oops. Ah. Okay, Nicholas says the duality of the ad being able to see upside down and the other way. The flexibility of the vehicle. Okay, it's interesting you say Sean. Why did that occur to you? I also started showing my essay that was based on this ad, so I hope people are grabbing ideas from that. I mean, Nicholas, I think you're saying something that's possibly interesting, but remember what I said before, and this is where I'm going to be like the mean instructor sometimes, because I know it's a fine line, right? Because when are you analyzing the ad, and when are you drifting into just re-describing what you can literally see in the ad? So yes, I agree with you. There is this upside down imagery, but analysis means here's something that might help. Analysis ultimately answers the question why. Why this color? Why this music choice? Why this? Why that? Okay, so we have to be able to answer the question why. Sean says because of the different demographics of the consumer that buys Jeep. Okay, um, this gets better, I swear. Don't worry, we have 2 more ads to look at, and after this first one, it gets easier. But let's start with background. Okay, that's one of the things that leaps out to me. The background is beige, right? It's kind of khaki or sandy colored. And it's not just a plain background, it's not a solid background. It's got this kind of fabric quality. Looks kind of like woven. I'm going to ask you that this is not accidental, right? Like, why would this color be chosen? They could have chosen any color. They could have chosen solid blue. They could have chosen pink. They could have chosen whatever. Why do they choose this beige kind of khaki color that's in this kind of fabric-like background? Sean says the giraffe is tall and lanky and the penguin is short and stocky, representing different people. Maybe, but I would be the mean instructor and say that might be reading too much into it. After all, we don't see we do see the full image of the penguin. We don't see the full image of the giraffe. I don't think the animals are intentionally being used to represent different people. I do think there's something more obvious in its choice of animal imagery. Actually, I'll throw that out as well. Who wants to take a stab at answering the question of why this background color? Why this beige, mauve, woven kind of background? Or why animals? Why not a reversible image of I don't know, like Transformers? Looked at one way it's a Corvette, looked at another way it's a robot, looked at one way it's a tree, looked at another way it's a I don't know. What could a tree look like if it's upside down? A broom? Like, why the animal imagery? Yeah, Sean, I don't understand. You said lungs, but I'm not sure what that means. Okay, let me jump in and help, okay? Because it's super important we get this down. The background, I would argue, is not chosen at random. What does this background remind you of? Like, where do we see this type of background? This kind of fabric? I'm reminded, the trees being upside down looking like an x-ray of lungs. Okay. Like, this resembles canvas. It resembles quite literally khaki, like khaki clothing. resembles burlap, like a burlap sack. It brings to mind all these sorts of outdoorsy type things. And what do we think of when we think of Jeep? We think of the outdoors, right? Jeep is the rugged, independent, adventurous vehicle. We think of off roading, we think of adventure. And so that's why this background, I think, is fitting. Um, Nicholas says Jeeps are all terrain vehicles. Maybe animals are used to scope the location of Jeeps can come in handy. Yes, good. I think that's more on topic. I wouldn't read too much into, well, the giraffe is tall and lanky, like some people are tall and lanky. No, I would think more literal. Okay. Yes, the animal imagery is also not accidental because what kind of vehicle, stereotypically, would you jump in to go to, for example, the savannah of Africa, to go see giraffes, or to go to the tip of South America, right? Tierra del Fuego to see penguins. Jeep. Okay. The stereotypical image of Jeep is that this is like the adventurer's vehicle. It's also associated with the military, but I think first and foremost, what we think of, I mean, yes, it's very stereotypical, but we think of like safaris, right? And Jeep is playing into this with, I would say, its background, which reminds you of that kind of imagery, and quite literally, even more so, the animal imagery. And this is part of a whole series. They have a whole bunch of reversible images. Another one looked at one way, it's an elephant's head. Looked at another way, it's a turkey. So they've got a whole series of reversible animal images. So yes, yeah, Land Rovers, quite possibly. And let me go quickly back to the sample essay I wrote, which I started to show, but then I realized I was giving away answers. So I wrote an entire paper based on this ad. And I wrote an introduction paragraph. And I'm not going to read this out loud, but basically my opening hook, and we'll talk about the opening hook. Like, how do you get the paper going? I just riffed on the idea of Jeep. That the well-known brand practically markets itself with its reputation of ruggedness, independence, and adventure. Then I found a nifty quote about how it's the most copied brand of American vehicles. And then I kind of do a picture of this moment. One can easily picture a driver behind the wheel of a Jeep, downshifting around a snaky mountain bend, or kicking up dust through the sun-baked Australian outback, or zooming past zebras grazing the Serengeti. Right? Like I'm tapping into that typical notion of what we think of when we think of Jeep. Yes, Nicholas, burlap is gritty and it's tough, and that's not accident. That's what I'm trying to tell you. And that's the thing is when you grab one of those 7 ads to work on this month, or you can use a past ad from a past class. You need to notice 3 things going on in your ad that are interesting and revealing. Okay, we'll talk about these statements towards the end of this lecture, but here's where I name my 3 things through the use of simple color. 1, playful imagery. 2, so that's an animal imagery, and 3, a double meaning tagline that reinforces theme. That's 3. Jeep see whatever you want to see ad appeals to the inner adventure inside everyone. And once you spotted your 3 things, then the paper already writes itself, because once you have an introduction, you devote 1 paragraph to each of your 3 things. So here's an entire paragraph about the ad's use of color. Okay, I describe it. The ad's beige background brings to mind fabric and textiles, a burlap sack, a tawny canvas tent, khaki clothing. The color might also suggest environment, dusty paths, windswept dunes, debris. And then I explain why this is important. The color choice is no accident, for it reinforces Jeep's outdoorsy image. Then I find some nifty quotations about how earth tones, okay, like the beige and khaki, are usually reserved for backgrounds, which is helpful here because in this ad it is being used as a background. Or that neutrals and browns are the epitome of nature. Well, that's helpful because the colors used in this ad are definitely stressing that connection between Jeep and nature. Okay, and then here's a paragraph about my second point, the ad's imagery, where again I explain the reversible image, and then explain the why. Okay, analysis ultimately, when you've spotted 3 interesting things if you can answer the why question. Like, why this animal imagery? Well, it's because, and this actually just repeats what Nicholas said almost exactly. The animal imagery is effective because it connects strongly to Jeep's overall brand. Only such a versatile automobile as Jeep, the ad seems to suggest, could take one on a journey into the heart of the African plain or to the rocky tip of Tierra del Fuego to see giraffes and penguins up close. Okay, and finally, here's a paragraph about the tagline. This was a little bit difficult because I didn't want to just explain what the tagline says, because that would be just pure summary, but I connected to the, yes, the, it's a little bit difficult to explain, but it's a double meaning tagline, right? You can see whatever you want to see. Or excuse me, I think the tagline is see whatever you want to see. See whatever you want to see, which can apply to the image. See whatever image you want to see, a giraffe or a penguin, depending on how you look on it. Or it can refer to Jeep itself, right? That in a Jeep, you can see whatever you want to see. And so I argue that it's subtly reinforcing the idea of Jeep as a versatile automobile. Okay. Finally, there's a short conclusion where I echo my main idea and bring the essay to a close. This is it, okay, guys? All you have to do, 5 paragraphs, some sort of general introduction, some sort of general conclusion, and then 3 paragraphs in between where you focus 1 paragraph at a time on the 3 things you've noticed in your ad. Now, let's quickly look at 2 more sample ads. And now that you should be more comfortable about it, jump right into this one. Okay? Just shout things out. We need to spot 3 things. They can be technical things, issues related to color, lighting, music, sound, although those won't apply to this because it's a print ad. Thematic issues, motif, story, character, theme, setting. So this is an older ad. It's from the early 70s. I still like to show it. 1, because it's an ad that has a lot of things going on. And 2, there are retro ads nowadays that kind of look exactly like this because they're playing with the idea of trying to look like a 70s style ad, or sometimes the 80s becomes in vogue. So what are some things we see going on in here? And again, don't worry about right or wrong. Just shout things out, even if you're not sure whether it's correct or not. We need to find 3 things to talk about in this ad. What are 3 things that seem interesting to you? Or even just intuitively, what are 3 things that look like they could have been design choices from the people who created this ad? Go. Okay, Sean says the man staring at the woman. Sure. I mean, I'm not sure that alone is like, I don't think you can get an entire paragraph about the man staring at the woman. But, well, okay, something I forgot to mention in the formal qualities versus thematic qualities, layout. Okay, when it comes to print ads, layout is an important technical issue. So, for example, to put the woman front and center, okay, actually, she and the car are front and center. So that's a layout decision. And they're put front and center because, well, what's being advertised here is an automobile. But second, by having the woman and the car front and center, there's a link between the two. Okay? And yes, in an oblique way, Sean, I think the fact that the man is staring this way kind of points out that the woman and the car are front and center. Okay? That's a layout decision. What else? I think there are other things here that are kind of screaming out loud, like technically. And everybody understands the gist of the tagline, right? Your mother wouldn't like it. Like, this is the stereotypical mother, like the traditional mother, who would not approve of this car because the car is fast and dangerous, because the woman is, by association, also fast and dangerous, even though there's nothing wrong with her. But to that stereotypical mother, keep in mind, too, this is the early 70s, okay? So this is the height of the burgeoning feminist movement. This is the image of the young independent woman. The fact that she's braless is also not accidental. Okay, so yeah, there's a linking between this car and who would be attracted to purchasing such a car. Men, even stereotypically, right? Maybe the older man who's going through a midlife crisis who might be attracted to this car and this woman, things that the mother wouldn't approve of. Bernie says I could point out a few things that the mother wouldn't like. Okay, but Bernie, I'm worried that would lead to a paper where you're just listing things. Remember, we have to focus. We have to think like an ad designer. Like, what are 3 interesting things going on? Okay. I mean, yeah, you could point out the wording, the tagline, but again, this is that fine line. Like, when are you analyzing and when are you just rehashing just retelling what the ad. I always put it this way: your reader should learn something from your analysis. If you're telling them something that they could have picked up just by looking at the ad, that might not be the greatest analysis. For example, it wasn't until I point out that the G-Pad's background wasn't accidental, that choice to use a not just beige but a woven textile type background, that wasn't accidental. Okay, or the animal imagery wasn't accidental. So what are things that we could point out to here? Yeah, Bernie, I'm not disagreeing with you. I do think it's important to understand what the ad is saying. So I'm going to point out something I think is pretty obvious. Color. Like, all the colors here are warm, right? It's all reds and oranges. And these are colors that are connected either to heat, to sex, to lust. That might be too strong a term, but there's a hazy, languid kind of yeah, lusty might be too strong a term. I can't quite find the right adjective, but you know what I'm trying to say, right? Like, the color here is definitely giving this ad a different feel to it, right? A smoldering. How about that? That's a good adjective, smoldering, with these oranges and reds. Sean says trying to portray her as a movie star type. Yeah, possibly. She's front and center in that sense. In that sense, excuse me. Um, yeah, the color. It's definitely, it's not accidental. Like, this could have been shot in plain day without the burnished orange of the theater lights. The convertible could have been a different color. It could have been like a blue sky. Everything, but everything's sort of blurred, not blurred, but yeah, a little bit hazy, right? Even the face. That's not accidental. So color is something that's working overtime here. Sultry. Okay, Sean. Yeah, that's a great adjective. I think that was the adjective I was looking for, more than lusty. Sultry. Okay. Yeah, good, Nicholas. Especially for a cherry red car, right? Screams its attention and danger, which would appeal to the male audience it's trying to grab. Okay, which your stereotypical mother wouldn't approve of at all, but to certain men who this ad is targeting, of course, that would be very appealing, because the connection is, if he drives this car, maybe he'll get to be with this kind of woman. um, Other things going on, their overall setting. This is something that's difficult to pick up on. And whoever said, I think it was Nicholas, maybe, or maybe it was Sean, about the man looking at the woman in the car, or both, or either one. That could be a matter of layout, but it could be also discussed as overall setting. Like, there's a passerby in the background. He's definitely catching attention. Uh, but notice they're in front of a movie theater. And I don't know if we have any movie buffs here, but you can make out Marlon Brando. And the title's cut off, but the title's also here. Last Tango in Paris. If you're not familiar with this film, um, it was a film that was released in, I think, 73, and it was critically acclaimed. It was nominated for Best Picture. It's a powerful film, but even in 2019 terms, it is incredibly sexually frank. Like, even by today's standards, it is. It was rated X when it came out, and it was controversial for that reason. But yeah, this, like, that's not coincidence. Like, this is the film that's showing in the background. Yet another thing your mother wouldn't approve of. Your mother wouldn't approve of this car or this woman or being in front of this theater showing this film. Like, no detail here is accidental. So we could definitely talk about color. We could talk about overall setting, like it's set in front of this movie theater with like a guy who's a single man who's staring off in the distance. We could talk about layout decisions, the decision to put the car and the woman front and center and linking them, right? Um, we could connect this again to the times. Um, that would take us a little bit of it'd take some, maybe some snooping on your part to learn about the early 70s. Color, lighting, okay, I mean, they're kind of one and the same, but they could be handled separately because this is a color issue and a lighting issue. But yeah, we have already like 3, 4, 5 things to talk about. I will say, with print ads, you're usually going to stumble when you get to like 4 or 5 things. Sometimes it's difficult for me to spot more than 4 or 5 things in a print ad because, again, we have to analyze only visual elements. But you just got to spot 3. Okay. Color is usually a good thing to focus on because color is almost overwhelmingly important in a print ad. So there's a hint there. Layout is also usually super important in a print ad, like what things are privileged and where they are placed in the ad. And all those fall into the category of focusing on interesting and important moves or choices that the ad makes. Okay. Nicholas says you can see the oldie boxer cars in the background compared to the smooth MG. Okay, yeah, I've never even noticed that before. But yeah, you see some typical old style 70s cars in the background in comparison to this hot little number, right? I don't think they make the MG anymore. But yeah, that used to be a flashy car back in the day. Okay, this URL doesn't work anymore. So what I'm going to do is I already have it open somewhere. This is such a mess. Hold on, give me a second. Cheap essay, get out of here. Where's my other? There we go. Okay, so we're going to look at finally a television commercial. But the only way for you to watch this is for you to watch it on your own. So hopefully you're either at a full computer or on a tablet or phone where you can watch a video real quickly. So I'm going to put in the. Oh, actually, no, that's not the right. First, I have to go into the ad, then get the URL. Okay. Actually, first I'm going to just play silently, and then I'm going to give you the link so you can watch it. Okay, now here comes the link, because you do have to, if possible, watch it with sound. There's a huge hint. Okay, so please take 15, 20 seconds to watch this, and then come back and just start shouting things out. 3 things we need to notice in this ad. Okay, hopefully I'm not intruding on people listening to a sound. Um, but what are we able to point out? Those of you who listen with sound, hopefully there's something obvious. Those of you who couldn't watch with sound and just had to watch the silent version as I let it roll. Okay, Sean, good. Bow chicka bow wow music. Right. And why is that important? Because I'm going to tell you, yes, music is certainly an important choice made in this ad. And why is that so? And you're kind of already explaining it in the way you call it ball chicka wow wow. uh, how would we describe that music? Or what is it a send up of? What is it? What kind of music is it parodying or poking fun at? And other people, you can shout out other things. Okay, Sean says pornography. Yeah, adult films. Not only adult films, but I would say comedy films too. Like where it's poking fun at love music, right? Cheesy love music. Whether it's an adult film, whether it's in a bad film. Here's my terrible keyboard acting up again. Yes. Sean says the length of the glass. Okay, why do you say that? My keyboard is not working, which means I have to slam down on it. Hold on, now it's working again. Okay. The length of the glass, yes, but notice how is it capturing the length of the glass? Okay, it alludes to the fact that it's tall, but look how it's doing it, right? It's doing it with camera work. Again, notice this camera work. Where have we seen this type of camera work before? Good, Sean. Yeah, good, Bernie. Movies, panning up a set of legs. It's almost entirely used when women, and it's such a well-known trope. I don't know if people even know about this whole movie anymore, but The Naked Gun came out in like 1988. It's with Leslie Nielsen. Very, very funny movie. But yeah, I hope people still watch it because it's very, very funny. Anyway, Priscilla Presley is the major female lead character in that movie, and when she first appears on screen, yes, the camera starts panning up her legs but it goes on for so long, the joke being that, she must have such long, beautiful legs that you see her kneecaps twice. And the only way that joke works is if you understand, if you've seen enough film, right? To know that this technique, the panning, the kind of I don't know, the slow gaze, right? It's often been interpreted as the male gaze, the eye traveling up a person's body, or kind of like a reverse striptease. Yeah, it's such a well-worn, almost cliched camera trick that Diet Coke is using it. Can we all recognize that this is a humorous ad? That using that camera work, using that music, it's trying to get your attention, right? Because it's using kind of techniques we would associate with people, but applying it to Diet Coke. Because the title of the ad is Tall, Dark, and Handsome, which normally is how we use to describe a stereotypically attractive man. And notice that Diet Coke is aimed largely at women. Coke Zero, by the way, is the product that was created to target men because men, for some reason, don't like to drink Diet Coke. So they created Coke Zero for guys, but Diet Coke, Diet Pepsi are still overwhelmingly aimed at women. So it uses a tagline or a descriptor, tall, dark, and handsome, that heterosexual women would definitely pick up on. And then the trick or the humor of the ad is to replace the tall, dark, and handsome man with a tall, dark, and handsome, I guess, glass of Diet Coke, but using the same tropes that we see in film. Although I guess it's kind of reversed, right? Because in film, it's almost always women who are scanned this way. If you do see a man being scanned this way, it's usually because the film is either intentionally challenging that trope or it's doing so for comedy's sake. Okay? So there's a reversal going on here. But yeah, we have three things going on here, or at least three things. We have the use of music, we have camera work, we have the ad's descriptor, tall, dark, and handsome. If you wanted to, I'm not sure it's the richest thing, but it's certainly something that's going on. Color, right? The way that the red pops out. Red, if you do some research into color theory, is often a color used to grab attention. Like it's just a color that pops out. So the fact that it's used here and on the bottle, and the bottle even just focuses on the words okay, so that stands out. Maybe there's something to say about the overall minimalist aesthetic. This sort of, what do they call it? Like the backside of an iPhone? Is it burnished? No, brushed, right? Brushed metal? Is that what they call it? Like brushed metal? When it kind of has that cool, sleek look on the back of a phone or the back of a product. It kind of has that look to it too. So I don't know, maybe there's something about Diet Coke wanting to tap into not just being seen as a really yummy soft drink, but as sleek, as, I guess after all, it's advertising something that's has 0 calories. So maybe even in its aesthetic choices, it's really sleek and trimmed down. I don't want to overstate that because, again, I don't want to read too much into it. Maybe it's just something about the 2000s and how every product now wants to be kind of space age or super sleek looking. Everybody's trying to make either their products or their packaging or even their ads look as sleek as an iPhone, because that's part of what has make those tech products sell so well, is because they look so cool. They look so sleek and aesthetically pleasing to the eye. So maybe there's something about that going on here with this kind of futuristic or modern or really sleek looking presentation here in the final screen. Sleek and trimmed down correlates with diet. Yeah, Sean, that's what connection I was trying to make. So yeah, we have several things we can talk about here. Now, there's one final thing we need to talk about. Remember, we started at 5 past the hour, so we have about 8 minutes left. Thesis. Okay. Here we go. Okay, so your assignment, by the way, where's my other thing that I opened up by accident? No, not that one. Here, let's close that one. Let's get rid of this for now. Here we go. Okay, so your first major assignment is to do a brainstorming worksheet. Okay, so this is due on Sunday. It is worth 15% of your grade. It is not a terribly difficult assignment. Okay, you have a video to watch, instructions. Again, here's your list of approved ads. Now, my advice is to go through several of these ads and choose one based on how many things you can see going on. Like the Apple, yeah, lots of people have Apple, but the human family commercial is actually probably one of the more difficult ones to choose. Print ads, like I said, just by their nature are going to be more difficult because you have to be comfortable spotting visual elements. I'd say McDonald's, Call of Duty, those are two of the easier ones. Allstate and Salvation Army are somewhere in between. But anyway, yeah, choose an ad not based on how much you love the product of the company, but based on how comfortable you are going to be talking about it. Because you ultimately have to produce an essay where you're as comfortable discussing the ad in terms of 3 moves that it makes as I was when I wrote my paper on Jeep, okay? What am I looking for? Oh, here we go. So here's the actual analysis worksheet. This might be a little bit different than any past worksheet that you've done, so be careful about just uploading a past worksheet and then finding out, oops, that's kind of showing that I'm not doing new work. A lot of it's the same. You'll name the ad, the company, you'll describe the ad as if you're explaining to someone who's never seen it before. But some of the other questions, if you've never seen this version of the worksheet before, are a bit more in depth. Okay. So, for example, it says type at least 2 sentences each. Was a story or narrative the ad? Maybe your ad doesn't have a narrative. Okay. Those print ads don't really have a narrative going on. So you could skip that question. But the rest of them, yeah, you do have 2 sentences to ask. What is the setting or background like? Were there scene changes? We're trying to get you to look at so many different things. Okay. What areas, people, or things were dark or out of focus? What areas, people, or things were highlighted? Okay, so we're trying to get you to look at everything in the ad. The hope is that once you look at the ad super closely, something should stand out to you. Okay, for example, here's a question about layout. Most of these will apply to your ad, but some might not. Because, for example, if you choose a print ad, you won't have to focus on what sounds or music were used. But here's probably the most important part of the entire worksheet. You have to take 2 stabs at writing a thesis. Why do we ask you to do it twice? Because one might be worded better than the other. Or because you might notice more than 3 things, but you're unsure which 3 are your best. And they might be spread across the 2 different thesis statements. And when I read them, I can tell you, like, you know what? I think you'll have to mix and match, because between your 2 thesis statements, here are your 3 strongest points that you could go with. At the same time, for anybody who's struggling, I do have a list at the ready of interesting things that are going on in the ads. Yes, I want to see you spend time with your ad first. But for those who are struggling, I do have a list of suggested ideas you can use. The idea here is not for me to force my ideas onto you, but to stimulate, to jumpstart, to give you a list of here are 5, 6, 7 interesting things going on, and hopefully you'll be able to spot 3 that make you go, oh yeah, okay, now that David's pointing them out, I can see these things clearly. And yes, I can write about these 3. Okay, so I will help people. This is another reason why I think it's kind of beneficial if you do want to start from scratch, because I do have plenty of things at the ready to say about all of my approved ads. But if you choose an ad from a past course, I will try my best. But one of the things I sort of don't like about, again, I love my colleagues, I really do, but we all have different reasons why we choose our own ads. And just as some other instructors could look at my ads and say, why did David choose those? I sometimes have the same reaction about my colleagues' ads. I say, why did they choose this ad? Yeah, it's funny, but I only see like 2 interesting things going on. Why in the world was this on their approved list? Anyway, final thing we have to go over real quickly is thesis statements. Okay, so we've already looked at a sample thesis. Remember, I gave you a quick look at my Jeep essay, and the Jeep essay ended with a statement that listed the 3 things that I noticed. That's all you have to do, is write a sentence that lists the 3 things you've noticed in your ad. So, and the thesis is like a roadmap to your paper. It sets up everything, okay? Because once you have a sentence that says, the McDonald's ad uses A, B, and C, okay? Or the Diet Coke ad uses music, seductive music, playful camera work, and what was the third thing? Interesting language. Okay, you got your 3 things: music, camera work, language, that you're going to build your paper around. And here are 2 examples of thesis statements. Here's the Jeep thesis again. Through the use of simple color, 1, playful imagery, 2, and a double meaning tagline that reinforces theme, 3, Jeeps see whatever you want to see at appeals to the inner adventure inside everyone to unlock a hidden enthusiasm for Jeep. Okay? So I've listed my 3 things: color, imagery, tagline. Be careful. Yes, I've gone with tagline, but I've seen people choose the Call of Duty ad and they list tagline. Then I have to be the mean instructor and say, okay, the taglines, there's a soldier in all of us. But does that really need to be explained? Do people not know what that tagline means? Like, unless you can do something really interesting with that tagline. Yeah, be careful. Okay. Again, it's walking the line between stating the obvious, describing, summarizing, and truly focusing on 3 interesting and revealing choices that are made. And here's a thesis for the Diet Coke that we just looked at, the commercial. Diet Coke Tall, Dark, and Handsome ad uses sexually charged language. 1, seductive music. 2, and slow camera movement. 3, to convince sophisticated women to buy into the idea that drinking Diet Coke is as fulfilling as a heteronormative romance, which is just fancy speak for a relationship between a man and a woman. And because I have 1 minute left, let me just quickly show you. A thesis really does come down to this. Oops. The blank ad uses blank, blank, and blank in order to blank. Now that sounds convoluted, but if we start filling in those blanks, then it becomes pretty obvious, right? The Diet Coke ad uses seductive music. That's 1. Slow camera work. That's 2. And I forget how they worded it. The 3rd one, something language. And let's say language. In order to convince, I won't type the rest of them, right? In order to convince sophisticated women that buying Diet Coke is just as rewarding as a satisfying romance. Blah, blah, blah. But you get the gist, right? But this is really what you're doing. Name of your ad, and then you got to spot 3 things. So that's your goal, okay? With the brainstorming worksheet that's due on Sunday. I promise you, I would go no longer than an hour. We're at an hour. So I'm going to hang out a bit if you have questions. But otherwise, if you're comfortable with what we've gone over, you are free to go and enjoy the rest of your evening. I do thank you so much for attending the first lecture. I was worried the turnout would be zilch because only 13 people registered. So the fact that we had about a handful of people show up, that is pretty good. So fire away if you have questions. If not, you are free to go. Of course, I have to remember that one of the people is the transcriber. So maybe it wasn't such a great turnout. You're welcome, everyone. I'll keep things open for a minute or so because sometimes people ask interesting questions that people watch us after the fact could benefit from, but everybody's gone. So I'm going to stop the recording. Okay. So thank you all so much for attending. We will do this the same time, same place, same bat time, same bat channel next Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern. Adios, everyone.